Right, hello there Logic Language Learners. So this is the first video in the A-level series, which is looking today at A-level translation. So I will stick it in the translation section, I will stick it in the normal playlist, but it will also be going into the A-level playlist for those of you who are studying for A-level. So, quick reminder for those of you who are neither British, why are the children shouting outside? We don't know. So this is for... I've suddenly changed my mind, I don't want to work with young people. So this A-level is the examination that you take, or the examinations that you take before going to university. So they're reasonably complex French. Although I've met some people who've got A-levels and can't speak. But the fact is, we're going to be tailoring it towards those exams. If you're not doing those exams, then the French is still absolutely fine. French is French, English is English. Okay, but it's just more of an exam series. So, sorry for having my head down. So all of this translation material will be underneath. Okay, I will be writing the English that you've got to translate from into French underneath. Okay, so we have 4 sentences today that are coming up. We've got, and this was homework that was sent to me by Callum, who's studying in South Wales. So, there is no shortage of rubbish on TV. Celebrities constantly argue and fight. Television is not what it used to be. I wish that I could come home after school and watch something decent. So, right, so let's start talking about this. So first things first, what people are looking for with translation is for you to fall in a trap. Okay? They obviously want you to do well, but they also want some people to do badly, so they can have the year spread out nicely. So what you need to do is to avoid the obvious traps. Avoid things which sound like they would be the same in English and in French, but are not. To listen to subtle differences of meaning, yeah? So when something means slightly one thing in English, but another thing in French. And also to look at rearranging the sentence. So maybe don't go word for word, literally with what you're trying to translate, but try and get the meaning. Now, if you're in an exam, I always say impression is the most important thing. So if you maybe wrote something in brackets expressing if you had a doubt, you know, 2 ways of doing something, if you, for your lesson purposes, if this isn't for an exam, this is just for your lesson, if you had a couple of options. So a system I like to use when teaching is a hand system. Okay, you know me, I'm all about movement and hands rather than visualization of words. So what I mean is if somebody says something which is correct, which sounds, you know, correct in English or French or Spanish or what have you, but I think, well, we need a version which sounds a little bit more formal, I'll go here. If it's quite formal and we need a bit more of a normal French or English, I'll say do this. And if I want to check that they know the slang, I'll go like this. So we have 3 levels of speech, and this isn't obviously what you need to have yourself, which is what we use all the time. All of you have different registers of speech that you will use in English. So let's have a look at this first one, okay? So there is no shortage of rubbish on TV. So what are the temptations? So the temptations are to think, right, what's short? Court. Am I going to find a word from this? Okay, rubbish. What's rubbish? Oh, I know the word for poubelle. You know, so you've got to lose all of your other associations. So what are we trying to say? So there's no shortage. How else could we say this in English? There's no shortage. There's plenty of. There's no problem finding. One can easily find. There's never been any problem finding, this kind of thing. So if you couldn't 100% come up with a noun for a shortage, okay, then that would be the way to do it. Do you understand how you've got to try and take your sentence round and round, guys, those of you that are studying? So words for a shortage medically, like when you have a deficiency, a deficit, this is a carence, une carence de vitamine C, for example, okay? Carencia is the same word in Spanish, those of you that are studying both for A-level. Okay, so, but for this it's going to be about when you are lacking something, what do you say? Oh, we're lacking a chair. Il nous manque une chaise. So what can we do? This is your patterning for this kind of translation. Be very fluid, going between a verb and a noun and an adjective of the same thing, of the same meaning, so that it makes sense. So instead of saying there isn't a lack, which we could say il n'y a pas de manque, or il n'y a aucun manque, we could go with on manque pas de, we're not missing, on manque pas de, okay? So I'm going to go with, il n'y a pas un manque de, no. Rubbish TV, no. Télé, enfin, our choice. Are we going to go with télé de mauvaise qualité, of bad quality, or are we going to go with the télé qui est nul, okay, which is useless, nul, okay? Now listen to the word rubbish. Rubbish isn't a formal word. If there was a government report on something and it said, oh, what do we think of, you know, this? The report wouldn't come back and say rubbish. So the fact is, if you're hearing quite a slangy, trendy word, you can use one the same in French. So, télé qui est nul, N-U-L, rubbish, nul, okay, as opposed to nil, which is like none at all, like nil point. Nul and nil, you can use both. I'll explain that in a different video. I don't want to get into that. Okay, nul point, nil point. You've then got télé de mauvaise qualité. Télé qui est pourri. P-O-U-R-R-I comes from the verb pourrir, to rot. Or say pourri ça. It's rubbish. It's crap. It's rotten. It's no good. Do you like my new trainers? No, they're rubbish. Ils sont pourris. Okay. So we've got mauvaise qualité, nul, pourri. If we're being really slangy, and I'm not saying you do this for the exam, but à chier, okay? C'est nul à chier, which basically means to shit, okay? So, but the formal one we're going to go with is il n'y a aucun manque de télé pourri. And if you're using a word in a bit of an aware slang way, use inverted commas in your translation, okay? So, de télé pourri, or de contenu, contents pourri qui passe à la télé, or you could knock it up a bit, which is broadcast on TV, qui est diffusé, or qui se diffuse à la télé. Okay, so read underneath again for what the original sentence was, and those are our options, okay? Good. Can you have this one open now? Celebrities constantly argue and fight. Okay, celebrities constantly argue and fight. Now, again, this is a little trap. Okay, oh, pardon me 1 second, I have okay, we had a phone call, but that's now gone. So, celebrities constantly argue and fight. So, you will have come up with words at GCC that are kind of okay now, and we need to be a bit more specific. So, celebrities. Even if there is a similar word in French, okay, try and find one which isn't entirely similar, because then people think your vocabulary is bigger and better, and everything you want to do is convince an examiner that you know a lot. So yes, we've got les célébrités, les célèbres, because obviously you can make a noun out of an adjective in French. Les bien connus, okay. Vedette is like a star, okay. Constantly, now obviously the adverb is going to go after the verb, but whenever we have a word which ends in an ant or an ent, and we make it an adverb, we're going to reduce the ant. So how do we say apparently? Apparemment. We don't say apparentement. Yeah, we don't make it sound like Spanish or something. Okay. If we've got constant, constantly is constamment, not constantement, okay? So we lose that nt. What happens when we do that is we add an n, we add a double m. So for example, évident, ent, we don't say évidentement, we say évidemment, but we'll have a double m. The only one where we don't lose the ent is obviously the word for slow, because slow is lent, lent, and if we lost the nt, we'd have no word. Okay, we'd have le mans. So, slowly, lentement. But everything else, you don't say tement, you say amant, amant. Okay, apparently, apparemment, evidently, évidemment. Lovely. So, someone's ringing me again, but fine. Constantly argue and fight. Donc, les célébrités, les célèbres. Now, careful. Se battent can be used kind of figuratively. Notice we've got the reflexive. Okay, reflexive, se battent, okay. But it's a little bit more physical, so se dispute, okay, se dispute, or constantly. What else could we do if we didn't know the word for constantly? Are always in the process of. sont toujours en train de. So a lot of the time with this, it won't necessarily just be, ooh, which of my vast vocabulary, which words from my vast vocabulary am I going to use? It's going to be, I don't know the word, I need to go around it. So célébrités are always in the process of, les célébrités sont toujours en train de se disputer, or there are always fights. So you might not know the verb, but you might know the noun. What did I say? For translation, you need to be going between adjective, adverb, verb and noun of the same words. So disputer, une dispute, okay, there are always disputes. Il y a toujours les disputes entre les célébrités. There's always disputes between celebrities. So it's this flexibility of finding the same word stem and going in different areas. So what was the sentence? Celebrities always argue and fight, sont toujours en train de se disputer, okay? Or sans cesse, without cease, ne cesse pas de, don't stop doing it, n'arrête pas de, don't stop doing it, n'arrête pas de se disputer, or se dispute sans fin, without end, okay? So you're just going to notice that just that one sentence, we've got all these different ways of doing it, okay? Television is not what it used to be, okay? Television is not what it used to be. So you will be going, right, well I know the word for television, and I know how to make a verb not, and I know how to do used to, because Luke's told me it's like was, were, used to, okay? But you're just going to get a sense of things that we use in French. So literally speaking, if you translated that literally, you would have télévision n'est pas ce que c'était. Yeah? Which is not great, okay? So let's run through the laws we need. First things first, whenever we have a noun, we need something before it. We need a the, we need a my, we need a your, we need something. So television will be la télévision, or even la télé. Okay, quick reminder, it's strictly la télévision is the genre, is the medium, and le télé, le téléviseur, is the device, you know, the flat screen, the box, whatever you're watching, okay? I don't think anybody really has a big wide TV these days, a big box. So the point is, yeah, la télévision, now it's not anymore, so n'est plus, or what could you do? Doesn't resemble anymore, yeah? Ne se ressemble plus, doesn't resemble anymore, which is reflexive, à to what it was, à ce que c'était avant. And we need a little before. Or the television of the good old days. Le télévision n'est plus comme, isn't anymore, n'est plus comme, isn't anymore like. Le bon vieux temps, the good old days, the good old time, le bon vieux temps. Okay? Television is not what it used to be. There's also the sense that it's not what it used to be. It's a phrase in English which means, things have gotten worse. Things have gotten worse. So you have to ask yourself, in the saying television is not like it was before, am I honestly communicating this isn't as good as it used to be? Am I getting that across? So don't be afraid of adding a little word. Malheureusement, le télé ne se ressemble plus au bon vieux temps, whatever, or à la télé du bon vieux temps, to the television of the good old days. So notice how you can add a little word, you can take a word off, you've got to keep the sense, the feeling that original sentence gave you is what you're trying to recreate rather than a word-for-word translation, okay? Let me really make that point. There are plenty of things that you can translate literally and they wouldn't even mean anything. Yeah, so for example in English we say the straw that broke the camel's back, and in French we say the drop of water which makes the vase overflow. So you can't be literally translating everything, you've always got to go around. Now for your lessons, make sure you've got all of this ready, make sure you've got different options, but if you're handing in one piece of homework or you're handing in one exam, rather than going word for word exact, go for the sense and you will get high marks, okay? Good, so final sentence. I wish that I could come home after school and watch something decent, okay? So, the danger is souhaiter, which is to wish, yeah? And yes, you know, just fine, but it doesn't, we just wouldn't say it very often in French in the same way, okay? We wouldn't say je souhaite rentrer, I wish to return, so we've got to have the, oh, I wish. So try and go with the sense. Try and take your English away from you and think of the sense. How do you say, oh, that would be brilliant? We use the expression qu'est-ce que. Now you go, Luke, hang on, qu'est-ce que means what? Yeah, but we use this in English. What a beautiful baby. Wow, what a great sandwich. Says me who can't eat sandwiches properly because he's allergic to bread. So we use this what in other languages. We use it in Spanish. Yeah. Que bonito, que lindo. You know, how nice, how pretty, okay? So lindo is a little bit Latin American, but the point is you use this what expression in other places. So wouldn't I like to come home is qu'est-ce que j'aimerais bien, show off your conditional. Rentrer, so come home, show off, you know the 3 verbs to go back. Rentrer, retourner, revenir. The one for go home is rentrer. If you weren't sure of the verb to go home, get him home. À la maison or chez moi. Qu'est-ce que j'aimerais venir chez moi? There are ways around it. You've got to get that idea of you going home. If you don't know the verb to go home, find one. Find something else with what you've got on the exam, okay? So, lovely. C'est qu'est-ce que j'aimerais bien pouvoir rentrer? Wouldn't I like to be able to come home? Après l'école, yeah? We could knock level up and we could say after finishing at school, après avoir fini à l'école. And watch something decent, enfin, pour regarder, et regarder quelque chose de qualité. Yeah? Descente is a little bit like clothes, like, yeah? Oh, Luke, you're not decent, you're not covered, you're not, okay, whatever's going on. Yes, the word exists, yes, it's there in French, but it's just not what we go for, oh, is it any good, is it decent? Yeah, it's pretty decent, okay? So, again, that's what we've got. Now, with all due respect to a student who sent these in, I'm going to look at what he sent me as his options, and we're going to talk about why they're wrong, okay? So for the first one, which was, there is no shortage of rubbish on television. Il n'y a pas de manque de bêtise à la télévision, okay? So, il n'y a pas de manque, fine, il n'y a aucun manque. Bêtise would be plural there anyway, okay? And you will find this underneath. And that would have to be, that's more like silliness, bad behaviour. Arrête tes bêtises. It comes from the word bête, which means insect, which means beast, okay? Like la belle et la bête. À la télévision, fine. Well done for saying à la télévision, not sur la télévision, okay? Les célébrités se disputent et se battent tout le temps. Yeah, fine, remembering that se battre is often more physical, but figuratively that's fine, okay? Okay? La télévision n'est pas ce qu'il était. Now, first things first, notice if it's la télévision, it's going to be ce qu'elle était, not ce qu'il était. We're going to have a feminine elle, okay? But we want that sense of it sounding like French. Donc, ne se ressemble plus à comment c'était avant, ou ne se ressemble plus, ou ce n'est plus le même. It's no longer, ce n'est plus. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Oh yeah, we did, because we used it in se ressemble plus, okay? J'aimerais que je puisse... Now, I can see why this person's done this, because they think wanting is going to bring up the subjunctive. But remember, what do we need for the subjunctive? We need 2 different characters. I want him to be able. Je veux qu'il puisse. Or he wants her to be able to. Il veut qu'elle puisse. If I want that I can, we wouldn't say that. We'd just say I want to be able to. We would use the infinitive. So j'aimerais bien... Yeah, he's used a conditional. Good choice. So j'aimerais bien pouvoir rentrer chez moi après l'école, with all the accents good, et regarder quelque chose. Bon is a bit franglais, quelque chose de qualité. Okay? Good, so all in all then, first time we've done one of these, I think it's been pretty useful. So what we've got to start looking at is make sure you know the translation words for everything that's down there, and then have a play. How can you best preserve the sense? Now, everything I do and try and teach with verbs is so that you do this quickly, at speed, and find the systems so that you can talk. And you'll be like, Luke, everything you've just done involves staring at a page and looking at it and trying to make it sound like the original text. It does, but that's the joy of the exam. you've got time for that compared to the oral, but also what's the point of doing all this translation? It's just to learn all these different words. So these different options at the moment are you learning different words. You might not end up using them this time, you might end up using them next time, okay? So I really hope this has been useful. Please do send me in more of your translation stuff, or your homework discussion stuff, or your kind of book report style stuff, because it's really fun to try and help you, okay? I hope this has been useful. Please give me I wish I could speak English. Please give me a thumbs up and a like. And yeah, please start sharing this playlist with anybody else you know who is doing French A-level, because it would be really good to have like a nice club of everybody doing it, okay? Or French high school leaving exams, etc. Okay? Best wishes. Don't forget to subscribe.